Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking at the pen tool and constructing an image using shapes, or as I call it, the paper cutout method. For me, the pen tool is the heart and soul of Illustrator and other vector graphic programs. The pen tool allows you the control to create precise shapes quickly. There's a bit of learning curve, but once you develop the muscle memory involved, it becomes quick and easy. Let's review the anatomy of a path. Remember that a path is made up of anchor points and handlebars. An anchor point defines the overall path and shape, and handlebars control the path's curvature. By editing these two components, anchor points and handlebars, we can create paths and shapes exactly how we want. In general, we want to create paths with as few anchor points as possible. Doing so allows for better editability. The more points you have to edit, the more time you have to spend to edit it. When I start drawing a path, I like to start at a corner or a sharp point. From there, I go to the highest point or the lowest point to drop an anchor. If it's curved, I will drag out some handlebars before releasing the mouse. I call this a hill and valley method. I keep dropping points until I've achieved the overall shape. Don't worry if you don't get it exactly right the first time, you can always go back and edit it. Let's start drawing some paths. Follow along with the supplied image to get acquainted with the pen tool. You can find this image on my blog or in the course site. Now that I've pasted my image into my workspace, I'm just going to go to my layers panel and then lock the layer that my image is put on. That way I don't have to worry about selecting it later. I'm going to just make a new layer and do the exercise on that. If you would like, you can rename the files. So I'll just double click on the layer name. I just call this one reference. And then I can call the first one line work. All right, so now let's start tracing. So the pen tool is the pen tool in the toolbar right here. If you don't see it, then it's probably under one of these icons. Just click and hold on it and then select the pen tool. Before we start plopping down anchor points, I'm just going to turn my fill color to be transparent, and I'm going to change my stroke color to be black. All right, so now that we have those selected, we can even choose to go into our stroke palette and just make our line a little bit bigger so we can see it a bit clearer. So let's zoom in. So I will hit Control or Command plus, and getting a little closer, I'll hold space to pan to the first exercise, and then we'll just follow along. All right, so in exercise 1, we'll just use the pen tool and click once from point to point. So on the 1, we just click once. To 2, we click once. To 3, we click once. 4, we click once. 5, 6, and 7. Once we're done drawing the path, we can hit escape and then head on to our next exercise. In the second exercise, we want to hold the shift key to constrain the direction of the path to either be flat, vertical, or at a 45-degree angle. So at number 1, we'll just click and put down an anchor point. And then now we'll hold shift. And then you'll see that now it just goes straight across. But if we move our cursor slightly, you can see that it goes vertically or it goes at a 45-degree angle. So we want to go horizontally and just keep holding shift, and then we'll hit the mouse again and to drop our anchor point. Then we'll keep holding shift, and then we'll go to number 3. And always holding this anchor point, we'll go across to 4, and then go across the anchor point, and then at a 45-degree angle, we'll go to 5. And then finally, we'll go to 6. Once we've finished our path, we'll hit escape, and then we'll move on to the next exercise. So now we'll pan down to exercise 3. In this exercise, we'll learn how to draw some handlebars. We'll also continue holding the shift key to make the handlebars go straight across. So with our pen tool selected, we'll hit number 1. And then while holding the shift key, we'll go straight up to 2. And then we'll drop an anchor point but we won't release the mouse. So we'll click and drag, and we'll go in the direction of the path until it matches up with the handlebars. And then we'll move to the next anchor point, number 3, and then keep holding shift, and then we'll bring it right across. When we're done, we'll hit escape, and we'll move on to the next one. So in exercise 4, we're going to draw the curve at the end of the curve. So we're going to hit 1, hold shift to bring us right across, hit 2, and with the shift key still held, we'll go to 3, click and drag the ankle bars to match and going in the same direction as the overall path, and then head to number 4. All right, hit escape, and we'll move on to the next one. All right, so now let's draw exercise 5. So in this exercise, I'm not going to hold shift until I draw the handlebars. So at number 1, I'm going to click once, drop down anchor point, and then at 2, I'm going to click and drag, and as I click and drag, then I'll hold shift and bring my handlebars all across, drop my anchor point, and then also release shift, and I'll go to number 3. So I'll just drop down anchor point there, and then I'll go to 4 and drop an anchor point and drag, and now I'm going to hold the shift key, and I'll constrain it to go, the handlebars to go right across, and I'll try to match up the curve, and then once I've matched it up, I'll release, and then I'll go to point 5, I'll drop an anchor point, now I'll go to anchor point 6, click and drag, hold shift, bring it right across, release, and then I'll finally hit the point 7. Click there, and then once I'm done, I will hit escape. All right, now let's move on to exercise 6, and we'll do the same thing here, but we'll just change up the direction. So I'll click 1, then I'll click 2, click and drag, holding shift to bring the handlebars to be flat, and release, go to number 3. Now I'll go to number 4, click and drag. I'm going to hold the shift key, try to match it up. After I've matched it up, then I'll release both shift key and the mouse. And then I will then go to number 5, lay down a point, just click. Then I'll go to point 6, click and drag, hold shift, bring it all the way across, release, and then finally hit group point 7. All right, hit escape, and we'll just pan across to our other exercises. All right, so now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to make more organic fluid curves. So we're going to do the same thing. We'll click on 1, and then we'll go to 2. You can choose to hold shift or not to keep it right across, but this time it's not such a big deal. So just bring it right across, and then go to point number 3, click and drag the anchor bars all the way across. You can hold shift or not if you like, and you'll go to number 4 and drag your handlebars all the way across, and finally you'll finish off at the final point, and then you'll just drop an anchor, and then we'll hit escape and move on to the next one. All right, so the exercise 8, we're going to create a sharp point by re-clicking on an anchor point. So we'll start at 1, drop a point, we'll go to 2, and we'll draw our handlebars out, again holding shift or not, up to you. Then we're going to go to 3, and we're going to draw the handlebars here as well on the left-hand side. So we'll draw the handlebar to the left-hand side, try to match it up, and then release. And then now, instead of going to the number 4 and continue the curve, we're going to make a sharp point by re-clicking on the anchor point, and that'll make it sharp. And now you can see that when we move to anchor point 4, we have a sharp point right there. So at anchor point 4, we'll click and drag, and then create a nice line up to there. I had to go a bit further than the anchor point. And then now, again, I want to make a sharp corner right here. So I am just going to click on our anchor point again, and then that'll create a sharp point, and then I'll just go to the end and drop a point. And then to finish it, I'll hit escape. All right, so now let's try making some waves. So I'm going to drop an anchor point at the very front of the path. And then I am going to go to the tip of the wave, and I'm going to click and drag an anchor point right there. And because I want it to be sharp, I'm going to re-click on the anchor point, make it sharp, and I'm going to go to our next sharp point. So right here, and I'm going to click and drag. So this time, just go at a diagonal and then try to match it up and release. And again, you want to make a sharp point. So what you want to do is you want to click on the anchor point again, close up the right handlebar, and then move on to the next wave. So click and drag like that. Click on the point, go to the next, draw the left handlebar to match up, click on the point to close up the handlebars, go to the next wave, draw an anchor point, draw a handlebar, click on the point, go to the next, to the bottom of the wave, drag the handlebars, re-click on the anchor point, go to the next wave, click on the tip of the wave, the anchor point there, to make it sharp. Ooh. And then finish it up like that and hit escape. If you ever find yourself making a mistake in a path, just don't worry too much about it. Say you accidentally put it like here and then accidentally here. All you can have to do is hit undo, so Control Z, and then you'll just return to the last point you drew, and then you can start again. So from here, I can redraw the wave just like that, hit the anchor point right there, and just continue to draw. Just like that. All right, so now we're going to use the anchor point tool to turn some of our previous exercises into different shapes. So in exercise 10, we want to use the anchor point tool to turn exercise 5 into these sharp pyramids. So we will hit spacebar and pan across to exercise 5 right here. And then we're just going to use our selection tool to select the shape. So just the selection tool at the top. I'm going to select the path, and I'm going to copy it. So copy it, and then paste it, pan across, and then paste it. And then I'm just going to match up the corners with the sharp points on the blue lines. So after I've placed the path onto the sharp point, I'm going to keep the path selected, and then I'm going to use my anchor point tool, which is underneath my pen tool. So just click, if you don't see it, just click on the pen tool and then select anchor point tool. And now I'm just going to click at where the curves are to close them in. So right here, I'll just click once and I'll close it up, and I will do the same for the top of every other hill. So here we have a round hill. We know that the handlebars are on top. I'll just use my direct selection tool to show. And after I see that there's a handlebar on top and I want to close them in and not have any handlebars, I will click on my anchor point tool and then I'll close it, thereby getting rid of the handlebars. So again, I'll just show you, here are the handlebars. And then we'll click on our anchor point tool and just click on wherever the handlebars are to get rid of them. So you don't need to actually select them with your direct select tool first. You can just have the path, just match it up with on the path, and then it'll automatically, if it matches up with a point, then it'll automatically get rid of the handlebars for you. All right, so let's use this exercise, and we're going to use the anchor point tool to turn these pyramids into this shape. So I'm going to, this time, I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to use my selection tool. I'm going to select my object. I'm going to hold Alt, and then I'm going to drag the path on top of the blue line. That will create a copy of it just by holding the Alt key. All right, so now we want to use our anchor point tool, and now we want to create some handlebars to create some curvature to match up with these curves. So we're going to go to our anchor point tool again, and we're just going to start adding some handlebars and then moving them to make this sort of shape right here. So we're going to use our anchor point tool on the top right here, and then we're just going to drag out some handlebars right across. So you can hold Shift if you want. It's optional, but I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to match up the left-hand side right here. And then once I've matched it up, I'll release it. And now what we can do is that we can take this handlebar, and either we can pull it down to match the curve, or you can get rid of it and add another anchor point elsewhere. But I'm just going to drag it right down to match up with the curve, and then continue on to the next hill. So right here, I'm going to click on the anchor point, and I'm just going to drag the handlebars out to match the curve, and that looks good to me. And the next one, we are going to do the same thing, just a mirror reflection of the first one. So we're going to drag out the points. This time, just matching on the right side right here, and then I will edit the left-hand side afterwards. So now that I've plopped down the point here, I'm just going to use my same anchor point tool, and then I'm just going to grab onto the handlebar, and then I'm just going to drag it down just like that. And then after I'm done that, I'll just hit escape, or on the selection tool, and I'll just click off of it to deselect it. All right, so now we're going to use the delete anchor point tool to turn this exercise into this. So now we're just going to use our selection tool again, click and drag, click on this path, and then we'll hold Alt, and we'll just drag it all the way down to match up, just like that. And then this time, we're going to use the delete anchor point tool to turn, to get rid of this hill in the middle. So now we're going to go to our anchor point tool or a pen tool icon, and then we're going to use delete anchor point right here with the minus sign in the corner. And then what we want to do is we just want to click minus right here, and that will close off the point to go here, just like that. And if you notice that this doesn't look quite right, if you want to just adjust it, just use your direct selection tool right here, and then draw a marquee over here, and then you can just hit up and nudge it in place, and then you can even use it to adjust this handlebar slightly if you like. And then you can use that to edit the curve. All right, so now let us do the final exercise, number 13, and then we're going to re-add anchor point tool to make this pyramid in the middle out of the last exercise. So we'll take our selection tool, we'll select our path, then we're going to hit Alt and hold it and drag it while having the Alt key held, and then we'll just drag it on top like that, and to match the blue line. And then now what we want to do is we want to go into our add anchor point tool now, right there, and then somewhere in the middle, again we can always adjust it later, we're just going to try to match the curve as well as we can, hit anywhere that we want, and lay down an anchor point, an extra anchor point. Now what we want to do is we want to use our direct selection tool right up here, and then we're just going to select this one point. So just draw a marquee of wherever it is. We know it's between these 2 points, so you can just go like that. And then now that you see it highlighted, just click and drag it all the way up to here. And we'll click off to deselect it, and there you have it. We have just completed all our exercises with the pen tool, using the pen tool, the add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, and the anchor point tool. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of acquaintance with the tool and allows you a little bit more comfort to use it in building shapes in the next exercises. If not, try going back and redoing it just to get a better feel of the tool. All right, so now let's try drawing a simple illustration using the pen tool and the shapes and the shape builder tool as we did in the last class. So I'm going to go back to my blog, the link in the description below, and then I'm going to scroll down to this image right here, and then I'm just going to copy it, and then I'm going to paste it into Illustrator. So I will open up my layers panel. I will turn off the visibility of these to the last exercise that we did, and I'm going to make a new layer, and then I'm going to name this one reference 2. And then after I've done that, I'm just going to hit Control V and paste the image in to my artboard. And then I'm also going to expand it to just take up a little bit more space to make it easier to trace, just like that. And then now I'm going to change its transparency. So I'm just going to go to the transparency panel. So Window, Transparency. And then I'm just going to turn down the transparency just a little bit to make tracing on top of it a little bit easier. So I'll just bring it down to maybe 25%. And then I'm going to go back to my layers. And then I'm going to lock this reference layer, and then I'm going to make a new layer on top of it, and I'll just call this line work 2. All right, close that panel. And then now let's start tracing it. So let us start with drawing the smaller details. So we're going to use just a the shape tool and shape builder tool, just so you get reacquainted with it, and then we'll move on to the pen tool. All right, so let's start by building the geometric shapes bit by bit to create our illustration. So let's start with something easy. Let's just start with the eye. And then we're going to build each shape and as if it was out of paper, and just build it layer by layer. So let us draw the highlight of the eye first. And then we are going to go into our swatches panel. And then let's color this with a light gray just so we can see it. And then instead of being on our stroke color, as we can see here, we're going to move it to our fill color. So we'll just click it like that. So I'm just going to use a light gray so you can see it. And then now let us draw the center of the eye. So again, we wanted to keep it in a circle. So we're going to keep it holding shift. And this time we're just going to color it black. I'm going to use my selection tool to move it better in place like that. And then we can see that our highlight is under, so I'll zoom in, Control plus, is underneath, I believe it's the iris. And then we're just going to move it up by going to go Object, Arrange, and we're just going to bring it, bring forward or bring to front. So bring forward, we'll just bring it the next object up. Bring to front, we'll bring it all the way up to be the topmost object on your artboard. So now we want to draw the rest of the eye. So first we'll just start drawing the pupil right there. And then this time we'll just give it a nice brown color in our swatches panel. And then we're going to move it across just by nudging it and just fitting it. Maybe we'll need to adjust the size a little bit. So we'll just use our selection tool right there and then hold shift and drag it out to the right side. So remember, whenever we're working with geometric shapes like circles, we want to keep it in proportion by holding shift. So now you can tell, since we just drew it, it's overlapping our highlight and the iris. All right, so because of that, we want to move this to the back. So we'll hit with this shape selected. We want to go to Object, Arrange, and we're just going to send it all the way to the back. And then now you can see that is behind the iris and the highlight. All right, so now let's draw the outer eye. So right here, and then now let's just choose a little darker gray, again, just so you can see it. And then we're just going to draw a oval all the way around it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just to match it overall. And then now we can, since the path is still selected, we can also put this all the way to the back. So we're just going to go send to back, just like that. And then there we have it. All right, so there we have our eye. And then now, maybe we want to adjust the color just a little bit, just like that. And then now what we want to do is we want to group it because these all come together now. So object, we're just going to group it. All right, so we'll click off of it, and then that way we can move it as one piece with our selection tool. All right, so now let's draw the cheek, the nose, and the ear. So we'll just draw that one. And then now let's just give it like this warm color here. And we'll do the same with the nose. Hold shift because it's a perfect circle. And we'll keep that the same color too. And the same with the ear. We'll just keep those in the same color, just like that. And then just nudge it across. And then once we're done with it, let's just deselect all the shapes by clicking off on a inactive area, empty space on our workspace. So I'm zooming out, Control minus, and then you can see that we have created our first geometric details. All right, so now we can get into tracing. So let us trace the overall face shape. So I'm going to click on the pen tool. And then since there's no sharp point on this illustration to start, I'm just going to start at the sort of the back of the jaw right here, and then I'm going to move in a counterclockwise direction. So I'll be dragging and pulling my handlebars in a counterclockwise direction. So now let us make our fill empty, and because I just want to see a line, the stroke color, and I'm just going to turn the stroke color to black so we can see it well, and then afterwards we'll just change the color. All right, so now we have our pen tool selected. And then we are going to start at this point, and then we're just going to drag the point out and create the face shape. So I'm just going to click and drag out handlebars, so heading in sort of the top right, and just try to match it up as best as you can. And then after it matches up, then you can go to the second point. So here, I'll go here, and then I will click and drag and just try to match the handlebars. And this time I am heading over into sort of the top left corner. And then once it's kind of matched up with the overall line, I'm going to release, head to the forehead. I'm going to click and drag now, and then now my handlebars are going down. So in a counterclockwise fashion, just going with the movement of the curve, the direction of the curve, and then just about there to just match up with the line. And then now I'll go to the bridge of the nose, and then click and drag and just try to match it up as well as I can. So this one, I might need to go a little bit longer, but don't worry if it's not perfect. We can always re-edit the curves later. So this one, we don't want to click it here. We just want to click it here. And then just match that up. Go to the bottom of the jaw, click and drag. And then now we're going to close up the path. So from here, you'll see that there's a little bit of a circle just at the corner of the pen tool icon. So before we just click, we want to create the curvature here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to click and drag. So here, we'll click on it, and we'll click and drag up to sort of create a soft curve. If you accidentally just clicked it, just like that, and it's a sharp point, no worries, just hit undo. So Control Z, and then try again. So now this time, click and drag, and then just look at the lower handlebar and just try to match up that curve, just like that. All right, so now we have the overall face shape. So we can choose another color for it now. So let's just go to swatches panel and then choose a color. So so let's choose this darker one, maybe one from the lighter one that we use for our nose and cheek shape. And this time we don't want it on our stroke color. So what we're going to do is we're going to either turn this to none and then click on the fill color to make sure that one's in front. And then we're going to click on the second one. All right. So now you can tell that our face shape is pretty much all there, but it's in the foreground. So what we need to do is we just have to go to Object, Arrange, and we're just going to send it all the way to the back. And there we have it. And then now we can even use our Direct Select tool and click on individual points to edit. So we'll click it here, and then we will move individual points and handlebars to match up the curves a little bit better. All right, so I just realized I covered up all of the my eyebrows and my mouth shape, so maybe I shouldn't fill it so quickly. So if this ever happens, what you can do is you can just make the fill color again to be empty, and then just make the stroke color to be a darker color. Right here, you can actually just flip them. So you can swap it, and then that's an easy way to just make it so you can see the original line again, and then the other details that's covering up. So also what we can do is we can just adjust this forehead right now, and then we can just pull that in to better match the curve. All right, so now let's make the eyebrow. So this time, let's make the eyebrow to be black, just like that. And then we're going to draw the eyebrow left from right. So at our first point right here, we're going to click and drag so we can create that handlebar. So we'll just click and drag in sort of like the direction of the path. So click and drag out to this path right here, and then we're going to move to the next one. And then just click, and there we have it, our eyebrow, and hit escape. Now we'll move to the mouth. So this time, instead of drawing the curve at the front, we'll draw it at the back or at the end of the path. So now we'll just click on the path. Don't click it right on it, or you can. And then now move to the second point and just click and drag a handlebar, and there you have it. And then once you're done that, hit escape. And there you go. So now you have those. You can reselect your face shape and then just swap it back. And then there you have it. You can see the eyebrow and the mouth, and then you can also, we'll start rearranging the ears to make it fit, to make the layer order correct. All right, so now let us move the nose to the back. So we'll select on the nose, and we'll just expand, arrange, send it to back. And then we'll do that with the ear as well. We want that in the back as well. Arrange, send to back. All right, now let us make the hair. Again, I seem to have covered up all the details. So I might want to just swap it again, just so I can see. So here you have it. So then now I'm just going to draw the hair. So in this one, I had suggested to use a brush tool, but actually I don't use a brush tool that often. So maybe you can take this time to try to draw your own paths. I'll show you how I'll do it, and then maybe you can try it yourself or just follow along. So this time around, I'm going to choose my hair color, maybe a dark brown, maybe this dark brownish gray right here. And I don't want it to be my stroke color, or I'll just start with my stroke color, and I'm just going to turn my my fill color to be none, because I don't want it to be filled as I'm drawing it. So in this point, I would probably start drawing the path somewhere near the ear, because I know it'll be covered up, or I would just start maybe at this back edge right here, and then I will move counterclockwise to just draw the rest of it. So I'm just going to start this little valley right here, and then go in a counterclockwise fashion. So I'm going to pull this one heading upwards, and then sort of now go to the high point, the hill, and then I'm going to click and drag to match the curvature. Now I'm going to go to the valley, which would be right around here, and I'm going to click and drag, and it doesn't match up here. That's all right. I'm going to go back and edit it. So I think a good hill would be about right here. I'm going to just click and drag right here. And then this one, the peak of the hill is right here. So I'm just going to click and drag right about here. And then I think from here, you can kind of see that the peak of the hill would probably be somewhere between this one and this one. So I'm going to say right here. I'm just going to draw it out. And again, if it doesn't fit very well, like we can see it overlapping, don't worry about it. We can always go back and fix it. I'll go back here, and then I will draw here, a point here, and then here's another sort of peak or valley of the curve. And I'll just draw another path right there. and then I'll go to the peak right here, drag a point, and then here you can kind of see that the peak is right here, and I'll draw a point, and then here, sort of the peak of the hill is somewhere in between the ears. So I'm just going to eyeball it, and I'm just going to say it's right there, and then go to the next peak right here, and then at the very end, again, I want it to be curved, so I'll have to click and drag. So again, you can see that doesn't quite match up, but that's all right. Right now, we are going to use our direct selection tool, and we're just going to move the anchor points and the handlebars to match up. So let's start off with this area right here. I'm going to do a marquee over the area and that anchor point and nudge it, and then I'm going to pull this handlebar up to match up this curve. So I just pull it up. Now let's move on to this one and have this one match up. So I'm going to do a marquee over here, and then you can see this curve. I'm going to zoom in, Control plus, and pan over. You can see that the handlebar here sort of pulls this curve up beyond the path. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to shrink this one down, just bring it down, and then with this one, we might have to just move it slightly, and then edit the curve to just be like that, and just better fit the curve, just like that. You might find yourself having to move the curve a little bit, and then just adjusting the handlebars, but that's the best way to go around it. This looks all right, this looks all right. Here, the curve is a little bit wonky. I might want to fix that up. So again, just marquee around the points, and then this way I can evaluate how I can move the handlebars to make a better curve. So here, I think this one is sort of pulling it too far out. So I'm just going to drag this handlebar in just a little bit to make a really soft curve. And then I'll move this one here, and then you can just adjust the points just a little bit by nudging it, and just like that. And then we're going to go to this point right here, and then we're just going to pull it to better match the curve and to also make it a little bit smoother. So this one, you can see that this handlebar is drawing out this curve a little bit too much. So what we're going to have to do is just shrink it down. Oops. If you ever lose it, just drag a marquee over the point again, and then your handlebars will pop up. And then we're just going to go just like that. And then with this one, we're going to nudge it down a little bit and just adjust your curve just a little bit to make it a little bit smoother. So I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think just try to be sensitive with the curves, because again, everything you want to be very well constructed, and then you can just refine as you go. I like the curve a little bit finer here, so I'm just going to edit. Just this one doesn't match up perfectly, but that's all right. I just want it to look nice and smooth. All right, so now let's just add up our color again. So with our face shape, we can just click on it, and we know our face shape is just turned into stroke. So we'll just hit the swap, fill that in. And then with our hair, we have our hair at this dark brownish color, gray brown, and then we can swap that. And then now we have the hair. Some interesting things you can do now with the sort of eyebrow and the mouth is to just give it a little bit more line weight and a little bit more character. These two lines are a little bit thin, they don't match with the overall aesthetic. So the first thing we can do is we can select both of them. I'll select it with my selection tool and hold Shift and select both of them. And now you can do a bounded box around both of them. And I'm just going to make the curve a little bit bigger. I mean the stroke a little bit bigger. And I'm going to pull it up to maybe about 9. And then we can give it a little bit of a cap, a round cap, and that just makes it look a little bit more friendly, just like that. Another thing you can do is you can actually use a fun tool that I like. It's called the stroke width tool right here. And this can make your stroke width on a path a little bit thicker if you have an outline on it, a stroke color. So we're just going to click on this one, and with the eyebrow we might want to have the arch a little bit thicker. So just wherever we want it a little bit thicker or thinner, we just click and drag, and then we can make it a little bit thicker. And the same with the mouth, you can do the same thing, but actually I like it the way it is, so I'm just going to keep it as such. And then once you're done, you just hit your selection tool and just hit anywhere on the artboard, and then zoom out, Control minus, pan across, and then yeah, take a look. And I think that looks pretty good. So if we want to get, I put the reference on a different layer. If I don't want to see it, I'll just close that layer, and then we can take a look at it now. So now we can see that we can actually move our parts individually, and then we don't have to worry about to just kind of fuss with the illustration, just like that. And then with certain group things, you can maybe make them smaller, or even if you want, you can make them bigger. Just like that. And if you don't like it, just hit undo. And yeah, and then you can still adjust the shape a little bit. So right here, I just noticed it's not perfectly round. So you can just finesse with the shape just a tiny bit to give it a little bit more polish. Just like that. And then once you're done, since you might not want to move these all individually anymore, you might want to select everything and then group it together. So I'll select everything, just draw a marquee over all the shapes, and then just hit Object, Group, and then now you can have a simple illustration. Maybe you want a little bit of a background color. We'll just make a rectangle. Maybe make the background color to be maybe a light blue. We'll just click on the fill color. Maybe this color right here, and then we're just going to Object, Arrange, and Send to Back, just like that. This blue is a little bit bright, so maybe we can hit the color panel right here, and then you can see that there's the RGB. Another one that I like to use is the HSB, which is hue, saturation, and brightness. So maybe I want the brightness a little bit brighter, and I want the saturation to go down, and then there we have it. And then after I've found a nice color that I want, you can even change the hue slightly, so maybe it can be a little bit more green, just like that, to match up with the red tones in here. And then after you're done, you just hit select off of it by clicking on any area on your art space to deactivate it. And now you have a nice little illustration. So we'll just zoom in. You can even make it a little bit bigger to fill up the frame. And zoom out, and there you have it, a nice little illustration. So once you've finished with your illustration, or are at a place where you just want to stop and come back to it later, remember to save it, or save as a Adobe Illustrator file. So again, you want it to be Adobe Illustrator, and this time I've named it just Phase 2. And then once you select Adobe Illustrator, again, you can choose wherever you want to save it, hit save, and then just keep with the default values. So which will probably be the most recent value, recent version, and then you don't need to unclick anything, just hit OK, and it'll just save it for you. And then now we'll look quickly at how to export it for web. So there's a couple of ways to do it. We can use export for screens, but my favorite for single images is save for web. So this is what we'll use today. So we'll hit save for web. And then you can see we have our image right here. You can see our image is a little bit big. So if you want it to be smaller, say Instagram size, you can go 1080 by, or maybe the height in 1080. Just like that. Just like that. You don't want to change the proportions, so you always keep them linked up. And then you can, I like the save for web because you can see how big it is. So you can see in the PNG 24, the size is about 30 kilobytes, and the quality is still quite nice. You can also choose JPEG, but you can see it's quite a bit more at almost 60 kilobytes, which isn't a lot, but you always want to optimize for web if you're putting on a website to just make it smaller. When it comes to uploading to websites like Instagram or anything, they have their own compression algorithms in there, so the best is to just upload as high as you can. Some other formats they have is a GIF, which is very good for flat color. You can see right here it's only 15 kilobytes. So you just choose whichever one you think works best. In this case, you always want to go with the smallest one. So with flat color, GIF is great. But I'm actually not sure if Instagram uploads it. So though I do know that they upload JPEGs. So you can just put it up to very maximum, and then you shouldn't have too much of a problem with exporting it. And then you can just hit save, and then you can just save it like that. So you can go JPEG right there, and then maybe if you want to save a smaller one, you can save it as a GIF. So we'll just do that again. We'll go to save for web, but this time we'll just choose a GIF right here. And then we'll change this one to 1080 again. And then we'll hit, we'll let it resize first by clicking on another field. And then we'll hit GIF. We have 15.53 kilobytes. And then if we want to, we can even reduce the colors to make it even smaller. So if we had 2 colors, that means there's only 2 colors. And you can see it's only 7.5 kilobytes. But maybe that might be a little too few, but 64 is probably pretty good. You can't even tell too much of the difference. You might even be able to bring it to 32. And you can tell there's not a huge difference. So at this point, you might as well just hit save. And then you'll have a GIF. All right, so now that you have everything you need to save it to go back to file, or if you want to upload it to social media or to a website. All right, I hope you found that helpful. Thanks for watching.